Why?
Could you repeat it? Whether what? I didn't. The last part you
Uh,
kind of
okay, so the question
was
is,
fuzzy.
okay, the
Whether
question
Robert
is
was what?
whether you consider your brother Robert a victim in this case and why.
Well, I mean, from the very beginning, I could really go back some years ago. I just wasn't really comfortable with a lot of the company that Robert kept. Of course, he's a superstar living a rock star life. So
Mm-hmm.
you have a lot of people coming into his circle that had ulterior motives to be there. And it was always about money and people seeing him living such a a fabulous lifestyle, always traveling, always having nice things, staying in nice hotels, and doing videos and all that stuff. You know they they think that everything's glorious. But if anyone can remember when like in his song I Wish, he said he traded all in
Wow.
just to have one, just I mean not uh I Wish, but I think that was to my homies. No, that is I Wish. I traded all in just to have one ride, just to get one ride with you. People look at you and think you've been blessed, but they don't see the inside of your unhappiness.
Sure.
So
Mm-hmm.
way and that was back in the 90s, some things and stuff, whether it be with the people that were around him, his management, Robert is not crazy. So he knew a lot of things were going wrong and going on with things, as far as his business and stuff. And me, I'm just really realizing, here of late that he was having really financial difficulties way back then, and he shouldn't have had any difficulties because he was generating a lot of money, especially back in the 90s. Experiencing and stuff. I learned here late that he stayed on tour so he could make lots of money because the that he made
Mm-hmm.
on tour had nothing to do with his record label or anything like that. Anything that he made on tour, him being a victim though, yeah, I truly think that he has been a victim of people that he had in his circle, people that he trusted and thought that loved him, as well as the government. So, I've never ever seen anything like the documentary that Michael Jackson did. It was a 5.5 hour documentary where Michael was talking about, he made it perfectly clear. He said Sony was the devil. That's exactly what that's just how he put it. Sony is the devil. And the things that he was talking about in that documentary, I was I was astounded. I mean, I watched it from the beginning to the end, 5.5 hours, because it intrigued me so much. Because the things that he was saying in this documentary was things that was happening to my brother.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such a surreal experience to watch this documentary that Mike warned. He was giving a warning, not just to Robert, but anybody in the industry who he thought might be next.
Right.
So
So he's seen it coming.
absolutely,
He's seen it
Robert is a
coming. Yeah.
victim.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hard to sit back and look at what's going on because him being found guilty of some of the things that he was found guilty, especially in New York. Um, some of those in the world, could he be found guilty on those charges when there was no of
Uh-huh. I
like
I have
kidnapping? Come on, really? Kidnapping?
mhm.
You know,
I have a
when Robert was
question
going
for
through that trial, everybody know I was locked up at that time. But I stayed connected with people who was covering and finding out what's going on with the trial and everything like that. They would let me know, huh?
they're saying the sound is bad. Maybe we can take a second. Can you hear me, Bruce?
Yeah. So
Can we take a second and maybe you go
I
out and come
uh
back
I, I
in?
would find out different things and so forth about what was going on and me, being locked up myself at that time, I felt totally helpless and it's not. Yeah, I hear you.
The sound, they said the sound is bad, so I don't know if we want to try it again or if you want, to go out and come back in. I mean, we can try it for a second.
What do we need to do?
You sound better now, so let's see if maybe someone in the chat, if they can tell us if you can hear Bruce okay. I know there's a little delay in when you come on, when you're speaking, but let's see. We'll continue and then we'll see if there's a if
Okay.
there's a need for you to come back. So
Well,
one of
I
the things,
mic down.
can you hear me? Can you hear me, Bruce?
Yeah, but you chopping up. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
hear you. Can you hear me? Okay?
Okay. So
Sasha?
okay. I I I had a question and you were talking, so I think maybe it was the mic or something was and I will mute when you start to speak and maybe that will help. But I had a question when you were speaking about, the jury and the kidnapping and some of the charges in New York. And as
Yeah.
also as it relates to that, you had been there, and maybe for some of the people over here, they don't realize that you were his tour manager for years. So you witnessed a lot of things, a lot of history. You were right along with your brother and seen a lot of things, seen, and questioned a lot of things. And in hindsight, have more questions and maybe some of those intuitions that you had about certain people. Now you see a little bit differently. If you can talk about that a little bit. And about the jury, if you think that the jury in New York and the jury in Chicago got it wrong, like you started to speak about the kidnapping, he was not convicted of kidnapping, and obviously that was somebody's perspective on what he could be charged with, because a girl decided to stay in a room or whatever it is. But I know you have some feelings about some of some of what he was charged with, and how the jury may have gotten that wrong. If you can speak on that.
Well, I mean, my my views is more so toward the 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 judge. The judge gives the jury instructions, on things as far as them deliberating the outcome of these cases, and And it was, to me, it seemed like it was all fashioned for a guilty outcome. You know, uh, her not letting certain things in or putting, people putting things out there just, was put on deaf ears, with the judge because no matter what, it seemed like no matter what type of evidence they came up with, she was going to shoot it down, especially if it was something that was favorable for the defense. So that that let me know right there that to me this whole fight was fixed. You know, the government had a hard on for Robert, and no matter what the defense did, I think the outcome would have been the same. But I think it would have been an even better chance, at least, if he would have had a team of lawyers that were fighting for him. Because from my understanding, even though I wasn't there, I have a lot of people that were telling me what went on in that courtroom, and for some of the lawyers to be doing the things that they did in the courtroom, he would have did better to me with a public defender. I'm sorry, but
Don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. I think you're correct. And I want to say something about New York as well. What was your feeling as far as them, only calling so few defense witnesses? What do you think about that? Do you think that do you know, or do you think that there was other people who wanted to speak out, who were willing to testify on behalf of your brother?
I'm pretty sure that there could have been a lot of people that would have testified on his behalf, and why they didn't call more people or put on a better defense than they did. I'm not going to say that I don't know why they didn't do that because it's clear to me that they did not want another outcome. And I told some people that when I found out what the verdict was, that he could this is definitely a ineffective assistant of counsel case, because they were very ineffective as counsel. These are lawyers who graduated the bar, who graduated law school. And you mean to tell me you couldn't have asked better questions or been more specific with the charges and talk about the things that he was being charged with? I simply don't understand. I just don't understand why those lawyers did. And I mean, prime example, you're an attorney. This is a very high profile case. How do you say in your opening statement, you got to find my client guilty? You don't make mistakes like that. You don't put that in and Nicole Blake Becker said that.
Unbelievable.
You don't make mistakes like that. You put that in the juror's head from the beginning, and you're his attorney. So